Rock and roll, the president and CEO, Mississippi Hospital Association, Tim Moore. Good morning, Tim. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm good, Paul. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you. I got a story here about, and I was going to ask you about it as far as some legislation, and we'll get to the other one, but Mississippi State Watch, which we count on every morning for show prep, they do an incredible job. State Watch was saying that in a rare procedural floor move, the Mississippi Senate adjourned for the day yesterday while in the middle of the debate on HB 936. From our understanding, this bill will continue to be debated on the floor as soon as the Senate reconvenes this morning at 10 o'clock. And I checked to see exactly what that bill was. 936 is an act to authorize the Department of Corrections to provide for hospice care services for inmates who are confined in facilities under the jurisdiction of the department and also who are terminally ill, to authorize the department to have those hospice care services provided by properly qualified employees of the department, or to contract for the provision of the hospice care services. And apparently that'll be taken up this morning back on the floor as soon as they resume on the Senate side this morning. You know anything about that one?
Paul, I haven't. I hadn't been following that.
Okay.
That's an interesting approach. Certainly,
yeah.
I think anybody in a terminal situation deserves the best palliative care that they can receive. It kind of takes me back to some of the other things that we talked about, and that's expansion of Medicaid. If you're going to do things for medically fragile inmates, we probably ought to look at doing something for the working poor too. So I'm not against helping folks that have served their time at the end of life and need the help, but let's don't forget about our working poor out there too.
I got a pretty good feeling that subject that you just mentioned there is one of the reasons for the adjournment and to take it back in up this morning.
It just might be.
Well, the other part of that too is on the other side of this, Tim, is that we pay as taxpayers that cost.
Correct.
And that reaches the people who are working in the state of Mississippi. So that's one of the reasons for that bill. So
Correct. Your
thoughts on the Centene decision in the Senate?
Well, now, I guess you're referring to
I'm
Bill
referring to the contract.
567, 568. Yeah, and of course, Paul, I got to be real careful on what I say there because our hospitals are involved in the procurement, and certainly this is not a procurement discussion. So we'll stay away from that. The first thing that comes to my mind that is if we had a hospital or a provider that had to pay back $50 million, they would be cut out of the Medicaid program. They would no longer be able to practice and get paid by taking care of Medicaid patients. So I think I applaud first the House's work. And, Paul, as funny as this is, that was not our bill. That was not an MHA bill. Matter of fact, we were as shocked as everybody else was when Representative Curry released that bill. And once it was out, and with the overwhelming support of the House, we certainly got busy and started talking about it and supporting it. And we'll certainly continue to do so. But we're doing it on the side of a fraud and abuse perspective.
I understand that, but in all reality, Tim, that was the only, thanks to Becky, Representative Curry, that was the only mechanism throwing in the House or Senate to at least bring a bit of consequences to that impropriety from Centene, and it was taken out.
That's correct. I'm hopeful that the bill is still alive. It was a strike all. All of that was taken out, so it'll go to conference, and hopefully, I understand that the House is still pretty adamant about something has to be done, and I am hopeful that their conversations with the Senate and with the conferees, they will come to a reasonable solution.
All right, I'm going to ask you another, maybe a sensitive question, but I like, and we've had a good relationship with the insurance commissioner, Mike Chaney, but he was on the air with me. Did you hear that interview? And if you didn't, you need to go back and listen to it, but I hope you did. Did you hear it?
I did not, Paul, and I will go back. I will go back and listen.
Well, that would be the easiest way to not make any of these questions cognitive to you, but the way he put it, and again, if Commissioner is right, then maybe this wasn't such a good idea. But I don't know because I don't know the ins and outs. Let me paraphrase what the commissioner said. Look, thank God that amendment was taken out. Number one, because it would have wreaked havoc on all of our insurance plans. In other words, if this mild infraction, which for some ungodly reason, according to Mike Cheney, I believe, and I've got to go back and listen to this, but my mind's still pretty sharp. Some people might not believe that. But it was around 800 to 850,000 in just honest mistakes. And if we would have pulled them to the carpet for such a minor infraction, we would have had to cut ties with all of the other insurance conglomerates out there that we're doing business with. How do you respond to that?
Well, I've got major concerns with that we are going to do business with corporations that we know are going to take advantage of us on the front end. Now, and some of those, certainly we all make mistakes, Paul. Corporations make mistakes. I mean, that happens. I'm not going to sit here and say that everything has any kind of malice or pre-planning to it. But it is a fact that our insurance companies, all insurance companies, that their opportunity there, they're publicly held. So the important part of what they do is to return a shareholder profit. Matter of fact, I think you even used some of it online, where one of the CEOs and executives in an insurance company was talking about that was their objective for the year, was to increase corporate executive salaries and profits back to the shareholder. Well, we have to look at things a lot different from that in healthcare. Our objective first is to take care of the patient and provide good health care. If you make a profit on that, then it goes back into the healthcare system. So it's a different mindset, so we have to get used to that first. If you go back then to looking at everybody is guilty, then maybe from a Medicaid perspective, we just need to take it back in-house.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to pay claims like we used to, and certainly it would be less expensive to the state of Mississippi. How many folks, Paul, I wish I had these numbers. Our state auditor is doing a great job. He's finding all kind of things and bringing them to justice. But how many single mothers have we gotten on food stamp fraud or something like that? And what do we do to them? We put them in jail. Something as simple as that. But if you get somebody that goes out and for whatever reason has to pay back $50 million to the state of Mississippi for doing something inappropriate, we just, give us our money back and you go on, we'll continue to work with you. There's issues with that. And I would think taxpayers across the state of Mississippi have got a problem with that. I know there's a lot of legislators.
The other part of there's a couple of different things. The other part is if the whole House of Representatives unanimously misread this and the possible consequences, that's of a concern if Mike Cheney is right. And if Mike Cheney is not right, then his numbers are off. The other part of it, so I'm a little confused, not choosing sides on here, but a little confused to try to get this to the people of our state. The other part of this is I thought I heard some other states that were accidentally defrauded by Centene were taking the same route that we wanted to take, bringing it in-house somewhere. Has that happened? Do you know if that's happened?
I don't think it's actually happened yet. I think it's been discussed. I think they're having some of those same conversations that we are. Yeah. I mean, just if you're talking about Centene, they set aside $1.1 billion according to the SEC to allow for these settlements.
We'll talk more about this and some other things, and maybe the health of some of the smaller hospitals around the state, and where do we stand with that one? I was just looking at the C Spire text line here, and gas prices. Who would have believed that Hazelhurst, Mississippi would have had $3.98 a gallon? $3.98, unheard of. Hazelhurst, Belmont, $3.99. You know, Tim, I was looking at the last time gas prices were this high was during the Obama-Biden administration. Excuse me, when you remember Barack Obama had an all-out war against coal plant. He was going to shut them down.
Yes.
Just absolutely. The prices back then, some of the highest were $5.49 per gallon for regular, and if you wanted to buy Supreme, it was $5.79. Some were higher, some were lower, but I mean they got up to that one, and now it's higher even than that with this war on all kind of energy, and it's just gotten crazy. But that is that. I did want to ask you this. Is there anything in the legislation, anything in the talks you have had as the president and CEO with the Hospital Association, all of the hospitals across the state? Have you guys had any dialogue with the Division of Medicaid or with any of the legislatures to at least correct the situation where these people who hold these contracts have to have these payments back into the hospital or to the proper people a little bit speedier?
A number of conversations, yes, and we're certainly working on it. Matter of fact, last year there was some prompt pay legislation put in place, and also there were some penalties. Actually, there's a treble damage clause in legislation now if any payer is caught intentionally delaying payment to a provider, and that's any provider, not just hospital.
Well, do you need a lawyer to figure that out if it's intentional?
It would take a court case. It would, absolutely. Somebody would have to pony up and file suit. That's exactly right.
Well, I mean, that's going to just draw it out for not weeks, but months and months.
But that was about the best we could do. We are continuing to have some additional conversations with payers as we go along. And, Paul, ironically, this is not isolated to the state of Mississippi. I spent a big part of last week with counterparts and other hospital administrators across the country, and they're all battling the same thing. And it was exacerbated by COVID in the part that expenses have just skyrocketed. The trend line currently for expenses, just in the state of Mississippi now, is 2.5 to 3 times the normal escalation rate. That's what our hospitals are dealing with. And unless you find a way to curb those costs or you increase your revenues, it's an economic disaster waiting to happen. And, of course, that's one of the reasons we actually are having conversations and have had a number of conversations with legislators. Paul, in the past we've talked about how hospitals actually fund the majority of the state share for the federal match, that brings federal money in to pay for the biggest part of the Medicaid program, the UPL DISH program, and also a part of the general fund. We have asked the legislature that given where we are, and I just saw something this morning that the estimates are showing $768 million above projected revenues for the state. We're asking that they forgive or at least waive the hospital tax for 2023. Now, that's about $260 million is what the Medicaid is estimating in the budget for that. That will give hospitals an opportunity to kind of rebalance and figure out how we're going to make this thing work from a cost standpoint. But until we're able to get salaries and wages and material cost under control, it's going to be a very difficult situation for our hospitals.
Are those any commonalities with those problems as far as the payments are concerned with the other insurance groups that besides Centene that take care of you guys or the hospitals or are in our medical system?
Sure, and we've said for
same kind of problems.
Same kind of problems. We have said for years that it's not managed care; it's managed payment, and that's the mechanism that you have. If you can prolong the certification or you can prolong the payment, deny the payment for a period of time, then you get to keep the money for a lot longer, and you invest it, and you make more money off of that, and then you eventually settle with a hospital for a lot less than what the actual charges were. I've got a hospital that sent me a letter that has gone to Commissioner Cheney and to the CEO of one of the insurance companies that had a large sum that they've been working on for an extended period of time. And they've been offered a settlement which is considerably less than the amount of services provided, plus they've lost all the interest on that money while they're waiting to get paid. But it's a significant thing.
No.
It's a game. It's just a game.
It is, and as long as you deal with people whose primary mission, and they are openly stating that, even in the media, and they ought to be smart enough to not do that one. But when their primary mission is the bottom line and not what we brought them in for, was that to manage care. And I'll never forget it. I mean, we're going to make you people lots healthier. This is the thing that's going to to bring Mississippi above the off the bottom. And it was, first of all, when your bottom line is to curtail services, delay them from the services to delay or delete them from even the payment itself, it's just a bad template.
It is. It is.
To do that.
Well, and Paul, when we brought well kids into the managed care program, we knew at that time there's a different motive here. For whatever reason, for whoever. Not pointing fingers, not
You
saying.
talking about chips?
No, actually, that you had the CHIP program, and then we wound up a couple of years, well, it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago now, we moved all the Medicaid kids, the well kids, which would include, yes, the CHIP kids, into the managed care program. Well, there's not a lot of care to manage on a well child. So we actually paid, the state's paying administrative costs to manage well kids that don't get a lot of care anyway.
Yeah. So I think a great thing for the new contract when they cut this one is just say, look, how long do you think it would take to see us improve statistically out there as a healthier Mississippi? And if they say 3 or 4 or 5 years, well, you've had the contract for this long and that hasn't happened, number one. Number two, why would we give you another contract? So it's one of the things that they should be called on the carpet for. Exactly. Do we have any small hospitals out there? What's the status of the health of some of these small hospitals out there? We don't have any news, any closing or opening for that matter.
I don't know of any that is opening. Of course, we did have one open in Marks not long ago, which congratulations to that community. It's a challenge. I don't know of any now. I know that there are a number of them that are in trouble. Also, I'll throw out here for you to know there's a huge saline shortage across the country right now. And saline is a very needed product in hospitals. All your IVs.
Are you going to help me out here because I'm going to show my ignorance on this one. Salt water basically is purified, sterilized salt water.
Yep.
How in the hell can we have a shortage of salt water?
That is a great question. And we're trying to find that out. And of course, that's done in a sterile environment. I mean,
I understand that, but I mean,
complicated, a little more complicated than what you said, but it is what you said it is.
Yes,
and but it's across the country. It's
I mean, it's not like precious minerals where we don't have any assets to that or very little.
That's correct.
But we have a saline shortage in hospitals across the country.
Absolutely.
Is that because of the supply chain, or
it's a supply chain issue? That's exactly what it is.
Well, if you have a problem with that, you should have a problem with everything else, needles, everything else in the hospitals.
Well, you should, but so far, saline is the
saline.
big one right now. It's the big one now.
All right. Anything else? Let's have a free-for-all here for you. Anything else that you want to mention here?
Paula, I will mention that in House Bill 568 658 that you mentioned earlier, there was a section in that bill that addressed a not-for-profit managed care company. Mm-hmm. And, of course, that was certainly intended, I think, for any not-for-profit company. But, as you know, the hospitals have had one now for a number of years. We did go to the Senate and up front say, look, if that is an issue with this bill, take that out. Don't worry about it. We're fine with the way the process is going. We've got an excellent partner with the company that we're working with, and we're fine with that coming out. But we do think that the other issue needs to be addressed in some form or fashion. And I think some of the I'll defend the Senate.
Wait a minute, Tim. Are you alluding to the 936 we talked about earlier when we came in?
Yes.
So you do know more about this bill than you led on to.
Well, no. That's not 936. This is 658.
Okay, there's another one.
I'm sorry.
Just trying to call you on the carpet here. I'm trying to do a 17 on you.
That's
call
okay.
You on the carpet.
You can do that.
All right.
But in the bill about the $50 million payback.
Okay.
The Senate, just in some defense of the Senate, and I think some of the things they were thinking is, this is going to cause a disruption among the Medicaid population, and we don't want to do that. Well, there's certain things that can be done to rewrite that bill, and I'm hopeful that that's what the consideration is now, and it going to conference. So hopefully that'll work out in the best interest of the state of Mississippi.
Well, I got to tell you, regardless of, and you take into consideration some of the things that Mike Cheney has said, because those words hold importance.
Sure.
and also some of the concerns of the Senate. Those things hold importance. But at the end of the day, is there a better way? And do we have groups on both sides, and even in the governor's office, to say let's search for a better way, and let's forget about campaign contributions and everything else, and let's at least explore that. And that's what you'd hope for.
Amen.
Tim, thank you, man. Appreciate it very much.